What's up, everyone? We are set for another exciting week in the stock market. So in today's video, we're going to be going over some of the biggest events that will drive the stock market this week, some earnings to watch, and then some great setups for the week. But looking at the heat map from Friday, it was a sea of red with the exception of a couple powerhouse tech stocks like Google, Microsoft, and Nvidia. These three stocks really held up the market on Friday, but everything else is looking pretty nasty. So we're definitely set for an exciting open on Monday. But Tom, let's get right into today's episode.
Yeah, 100%, Mike. Like you kind of said in the intro here, there was a pretty bad move to the downside on Friday. Now, we did get a couple stocks moving to the upside, kind of like you mentioned here with Nvidia. Also, I found a couple other stocks like Microsoft up into the green. AMD was up. Adobe was actually in the green following an amazing earnings report last week as well. Gold was flying up once again, Mike, as fear kind of crept back in a little bit more. But the bad thing that we saw was that rejection with SPY right off of 396.50, somewhere right around that area. We started falling back down towards that 389 to 390 support, which seems like it's holding up once again. We actually had a nice double bottom right around 388.50 and a lot of price action around 390. So it's going to be a huge week as we start to get into everything going on, Mike. There's a bunch of stuff. We have to go over, of course, the federal interest rate decision this week. Also, we have some pretty big earnings. You know, tomorrow we have PDD reporting. On Tuesday, we have Nike, GameStop, and on Wednesday, we have Chewy. So it's even quite a big week as far as earnings go, too.
So if you had to pick one stock, Tom, for earnings this week, which one will you be watching the most?
You know, I think I'm probably going to pick the most popular one here, given, just its overall popularity in Nike. I know a lot of traders are going to probably be watching GameStop, but I think Nike is going to be my favorite one reporting this week. They are a powerhouse. And if we go to their intraday chart, they actually did pretty well Friday. And if we go to that daily chart, they've been holding up quite well here over the past few months. Now, they have been dipping down the past few weeks, but overall, they're actually still up quite a bit from recent lows.
Good stuff. If I had to pick one of them, I would go with Chewy, CHWY, on Wednesday in after hours. This is a stock that, it was a lot more popular in the pandemic, and it was kind of like a COVID stock, but in some ways it wasn't. But long story short, this stock can have some really good moves sometimes, but it doesn't necessarily have the popularity anywhere near, a stock like, let's say, Apple, or honestly like any other big tech stock, but there's still good moves out of it. So that's why I'm going to be watching it pretty closely. Right now, the stock's sitting right around $39 per share. It has highs of 120 that it hit back in 2021, and the lows were actually of $22 a share that it made back in 2022 in May.
Yeah, that's actually insane to see some of these charts of these growth stocks. It looks just like every other growth stock here over the past couple of years, how they took a big dip and it's been kind of consolidating. I do like that big support on Chewy right around like $37 as well. It seems like that's a pretty big area, and we hit off of it recently too. So that's good to see, and hopefully they can report some good earnings, then start to maybe retest the top of this channel around 45, maybe even 50 if they get a good enough price action there. But it's going to be a big week with earnings. Don't forget to screenshot this. And Mike, the big thing, though, that everybody's been talking about over the past couple trading days is going to be the big federal interest rate decision coming up this week at the FOMC meeting. So I know the FOMC meeting is a pretty big event. Everybody talks about it. And actually, I can't believe that we're actually kind of swinging towards a 0 basis point rate hike, or just no rate hike at that point. And I can't believe that we're favoring 25. Just a few weeks ago, we were actually swinging towards 50 basis points. So quite a few things have changed. And it's just insane to see that, we could possibly go to no rate hike here on this interest rate decision. I mean, it's impossible for me to even fathom that with inflation still over like 5.5, around 6% still.
Yeah, so basically, if you guys needed to really pay attention to the market for only one day this week, Wednesday would be the day. It's by far the most important day of the week. Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time is when, just like Tom said, we have the federal interest rate decision, right? And the reason this is so important is because inflation, even though it's falling, it is still a big problem and it is not under control yet. So the Fed's been increasing interest rates and they were expected to continue to raise interest rates even more. But now there's a 38% chance they're not going to raise them at all, just like Tom said. And this is so important because inflation is still, it's too high. You know, it needs to come down. Right now it's at 6% and there's talks of no rate hike. So this is huge. So the main thing you need to know, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern time, the market, like that'll be the market's time to shine. It's always volatile with these types of events, and anything that Jerome Powell says, which is, the chair of the Federal Reserve, will have a huge influence on the market. So pay attention Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, and talking about Powell, he's been testifying over the past few weeks as well to Congress about the Fed's monetary policy, and it's been insane to see some of the swings out of the market during that time. And we've been having all this crazy stuff go on with the banks, and that's going to definitely be a big thing that I cannot wait for Powell to address in this speech. And talking about banks going down, Mike, it looks like we're actually seeing UBS is offering to buy Credit Suisse here for $1 billion, which was insane. I cannot believe that I saw this come out over the weekend as well. Now, obviously, I was expecting to maybe hear somebody, offering to buy them, et cetera, et cetera. I was not expecting to hear it to come in this low. It looks like they're only trying to buy it for 27 cents a share paid in UBS stock. And if we go look at Credit Suisse right now, or CS on the chart, they're at $2.16. So I don't know, Mike. It seems like UBS is trying to scoop them up pretty low right now.
That is literally the definition of a lowball offer. Right now, the stock's trading for $2.16, and they're like, we'll give you 27 cents.
Yeah, that's terrible. I can't even believe that I read that. 27 cents and the stock's at $2. And, they are, it is a Swiss company. So keep in mind that it's officially going to be done in Swiss francs. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's insane. 27 cents a share on a $2 stock. Mike, what do you think? Do you think UBS is going to end up getting this deal? Do you think that CS might go through with this, or you think that they might look at other offers? It looks like it says they're blocking it right now.
Yeah, like that's the thing. So while this is a lowball offer, I can understand, Credit Suisse getting scooped up less than their current market value, right? But the main question is if Credit Suisse right now is trading for $2 a share, does the buyout happen at, 27 cents a share? Does it happen at 80 cents a share? Does it happen at $1 per share? And that is the billion-dollar question, right? And the thing is, they're in a tough situation right now. They have some real problems going on. I would think that the deal would not go through at 27 cents a share, but at the same time, we are seeing some very serious problems happen in the financial/banking industry right now. And, Credit Suisse isn't the only one struggling. So it's a very, very interesting situation. And I think ultimately what will happen is we're going to see some banks, especially these smaller banks, get crushed, while we're going to see the bigger banks get even bigger. So for example, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of money flowing out of these regional banks. A lot of these smaller regional banks have been struggling quite a bit, but that money is just flowing into these powerhouse banks like JP Morgan or, Bank of America or other powerhouse banks. So I just think the overall situation is going to, make these top banks like JP Morgan and Bank of America that much stronger.
Yeah, I do too. It's because I know a lot of people right now have a lot of fear about some of these small banks. And it's even people who aren't necessarily as, into the stock market as a lot of our viewers are and as we are. It's just even a lot of normal people have been asking me lately, hey, should I take my money out of this bank and move it into a safer area, et cetera, et cetera. And, it just seems like that's been the huge talk lately, especially as we just keep getting more and more news come out with these banks. So I feel you, Mike. It is an insane situation. keep this stuff on the radar. And, it's going to be like black swan events coming out. Like we could see news and some big events start dropping with banks throughout the week as, maybe some legislatures passed or as they get some funding to help some of these banks or et cetera. I'm sure that we'll start to see more news come out, and there'll be even more crazier situations, like more people offering to maybe buy Credit Suisse like UBS did, or even other banks. So we'll have to see what happens, Mike. But I don't know. It seems like the banking industry might get a little bit more monopolized. I know a lot of people already feel like that some of the bigger banks already have too much control, and it looks like they're just going to add to it here.
Yeah. So, one thing that I always try and look at in the market is where is the money flowing right now? Where is it flowing into and where is it flowing out of, right? Tom, you already beat me to it before I could even say. Tom already has the chart because he knows exactly what I'm going to say. And the thing is, where all of this money is flowing, because of the fear and situation we have going on, is gold and just other safe haven assets. If you look at GLD or SLV, which is silver, they've been running to the upside in a major way over the past couple weeks, but especially GLD, which is gold. Basically, over the past couple of weeks, we've been seeing gold move in a way that we haven't seen in quite a while. And that's because everyone's buying gold right now because they're scared of what's going on, especially in the banking industry. So you guys have to look at this if you haven't already. Gold is also seeing some volume, some very insane volume that it hasn't seen in quite a while. It's moving in a giant way. Take a look at GLD if you haven't already. It is moving quickly to the upside, and moves like this for gold are pretty rare.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that run to the upside has been insane ever since around October to November. We had that low down there around 152 to 154, and we're all the way up now to 184, breaking out above that big high there recently at 182. And honestly, we're actually not too far away from highs. We had all that bad Russia news push us up over the past couple years along with COVID, and they created that high up there around 192.50. We're all the way up again around 183. If we have another good week, we'll be pushing these highs again. So it's insane to say that, Mike, and that just goes to show how much fear is starting to really come in. Now, this could help, maybe the overall economy because, we can see the dollar's actually starting to dip off a little bit. Maybe that'll help us out a little bit if that keeps going down as time goes on, and maybe as inflation keeps falling. That could be a good deal. And we're also seeing the USO2Y start to dip down in a big way along with other yields. So I think that could be also pretty good for the economy as long as this keeps happening. But it's just happening in such a weird way with the fear coming in rather than I feel like, the economy getting better. It's just happening because of straight up fear and panic right now.
Yeah, so no matter what, keep a very close eye on GLD. This thing is moving, and it's definitely one of those. It's definitely one of like the craziest areas in the market right now, and there's definitely a lot of buyers jumping into it. But Tom, let's get right into some setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching pretty closely is Tilray, TLRY. I talked about this one a little bit yesterday, or not yesterday, last week. It's a marijuana stock. Most of the time, this thing just slowly fades down. But whenever it gets like a good piece of news or good, any good catalyst, this thing can explode quicker than almost any other stock in the market. So I'm watching TLRY to the upside over this next week. It is risky just given, everything with this stock, the industry, the price action, the market cap, everything. But if it gets some solid momentum, solid price action and volume, this thing can really run to the upside.
Yeah, and I think that this one would be even better for shares for the long term, in my opinion, but I like it for anything, Mike. Even this week, if we start to get some breakouts, some day trades could be good on it too. Like you said, there can be some amazing moves coming out of these marijuana stocks. And, they've been talking a lot about changing up the marijuana industry lately. And, we've been seeing Congress and stuff get a little bit more open into maybe passing some bills related to marijuana. So hopefully we get some more news coming in as time goes on that can just help these stocks do even better. With my first play, I'm actually going to go with Take-Two Interactive. I saw this stock flying up on Friday despite the market doing terrible. Now, it's not like Take-Two is exploding. They were only up 0.63% on the day. But if I go to that daily chart, they've been doing pretty well lately, and they're sitting right at resistance. So if we can break that high of last week, right around 120 or 116.40, I'll look for some calls up this week. I thought it had really good price action compared to the overall market.
Good stuff. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Meta, META. So we were at this crucial $200 resistance level. It got rejected pretty hard at the end of last week. And I think Meta has some room to fall down to that 189 level and then 180 as well. Assuming that the momentum in the overall market is pretty bearish. But, looking at Meta, it's had a hell of a run over the past couple months, but we're now to the point where it's a little bit overextended and, it's time for just a normal, healthy pullback.
Yeah, that's funny, Mike. You love Meta. I'm surprised you're calling it out to the downside. But yeah, it has had quite the run, to say the least. I'm with you. I think it could end up falling down a little bit too, especially with that rejection there. And, kind of like you mentioned, the overall market's going to play a big role as well. Like, if SPY is exploding and you see Meta breaking back out above 200, might not be good to play puts. But if SPY goes down this week and you see Meta start to fall down too, it could obviously be a really good play. So I like that, Mike. It's actually probably one of the better plays that we're mentioning here tonight. Spotify, I'm going to really watch this one for both directions tomorrow. I feel like that if we end up getting up above 130, which is a nice overhead resistance here, we can start to, maybe look at some calls and get some nice price action back up. But kind of like with Meta, I feel like it's a little bit overextended in the short term. And if we get back under 126 tomorrow, I'll look at some puts to the downside, and I'm kind of leaning towards the puts, kind of like with Meta, just because of how Spotify is just so overextended in the past couple months.
All righty, good stuff. Well, it is now time for the momentum plays. With the first one, we have GLD to the upside.
Yeah, how could you not pick GLD, right? They're sitting right at 185 from after hours Friday. I would go ahead and make them break out above 185.30 Monday morning. If they break that in pre-market, then watch 186. But I think 185.30 will be a pretty good level.
All right, with the next one, we have Apple, but to the downside.
Yeah, poor Apple. They had a big double top going on up here. If they end up falling under 154, watch for some puts.
And with the last one, we have AMD, and we need both directions.
Yeah, AMD. I don't know what's up with AMD and NVIDIA, but those chip stocks right now, I don't know. Last week, they had quite the explosion. But if AMD breaks out above 98, I would just say 99. Watch for a nice push up to around $100. And if they fall under key support at 96, then watch for some puts to the downside. And I do kind of like them to the downside, Mike. That was quite the explosion there.
Alrighty, so you guys heard Tom. We have that downside level on AMD for a day trade down. We also have that upside level for a day trade up. And then don't forget about Apple with that level to the downside. And then don't forget about GLD with the upside level for that one. But it is now time for my favorite part of the video, and that is the big money trade of the day. On Friday, we had $3.36 million go into TECS call options. You're probably like, what is that? What is TECS? And basically, it is a bearish ETF on tech stocks, right? And I look at this play and it was very interesting to me. So essentially, we had $3.36 million go into the TECS 26 strike call options that expire on October 20th of 2023. Right now, TECS is at $25.50. So these call options are right at the money. And basically, if TECS explodes higher, this big money trade will print. But you have to think about what will actually make TECS rise, right? And ultimately, it is if tech stocks fall, like let's say Microsoft and Apple and Nvidia and all those good stocks, if they tank down, TECS will explode higher. So honestly, this play doesn't look bad to me. I actually like the risk reward. I think some of these tech stocks are overbought as it is anyway. So I think this play can act as like a good directional play, but also a decent hedge at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, some of these tech plays last week were crazy, especially some of those chip stocks. I don't know if like NVIDIA or AMD is necessarily in TECS, but like, man, I just can't believe some of the upwards price action we saw out of a few of the tech stocks last week. Some of them were looking pretty rough though, to the downside, kind of like Apple, etc. on Friday had some pretty bad movements back. But a lot of these stocks are just at very key resistances. And I just can't wait to see what happens this week, because I feel like with everything going on with Powell and the possible interest rate hike or almost no hike, and then obviously a lot of money going into TECS, I think that's just like a pretty scary play for the next few weeks. But I will say they are going out to, what is that, October here? So keep your eyes on that. It might not be necessarily a short-term play, but I do feel like that it's an awesome play because a lot of these tech stocks are so overextended. I was waiting for some of them to pull back last week, but they just kept going up, like Nvidia. Honestly, Mike, I was waiting on Thursday and Friday for some big pullbacks. They just never came.
True. Yeah, I saw that too. Like especially Nvidia and like Google and some of these other ones, they've just been running in a huge way. So definitely keep a close eye on TECS over the next couple weeks and months. It's a very interesting play. But Tom, for tomorrow, do you have any final thoughts or anything else you're looking at?
Yeah, there's just a lot of stocks moving out there right now. A lot of them to the downside. Obviously, gold is a nice one to watch to the upside. Maybe even keep your eyes on UBXY a little bit. If the volatility keeps up, this one will probably end up having some pretty good green days as well. Man, this banking sector right now is just crazy, Mike. If we go to the heat map, of course, they had a terrible Friday. Nothing was really green here. I hope that's not the case for this week, but I don't know, just with everything going on, and now UBS is trying to buy Credit Suisse really low again. If we start to see more banks fail or more bad news this week, it could get bloody again. Plus, we have Powell speaking, so it's a scary time out there. I feel like it's a very crucial time for the markets, though, and we're probably going to get a lot of amazing price action. So be ready for some nice plays.
All righty, good stuff. Last but not least, if you are not subscribed to the channel already, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. And we also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Sadine, in the Stocked Up Discord. You've been in the chat for 2.5 years now, and your activity has definitely been increasing lately. So definitely make sure to keep it up, and huge shout out to you. Besides that, let's have an amazing week.